In 1958, in a small Iowa town called Marshalltown, there were 7 working cobbler shops within a 6-block radius of the county courthouse on Main Street. The town had a population of approximately 24,000 residents in 1958. By 2020, the population of Marshalltown had grown to approximately 27,000 residents. That one surviving cobbler served a customer base that extended across 2 counties. The ratio of cobbler shops to residents had fallen by 90% between 1958 and 2020. That 90% reduction was not unique to Marshalltown, with the same pattern repeating in every small American town from Maine to Oregon. Marshalltown was a typical case, neither the most dramatic nor the least, simply representative of what happened to small-town American Main Street life across 2 working generations of decline. We have already opened the cobbler trade in this archive, but we opened it from the perspective of Lynn, Massachusetts in 1790. This vault opens it again from a different perspective, from the perspective of small-town American life in 1958. The story is the same, but the texture is different. Welcome to Forgotten Trades Vault. Before we open this vault, hit subscribe so the next archive finds its way to you. The archive opens in 1958 in Marshalltown, Iowa, a county seat of approximately 24,000 residents in the central farming country of the broader American Midwest. In 1958, Marshalltown was a county seat in central Iowa. The town had been founded in 1853 by Henry Anson and was named for John Marshall. The Marshalltown County Courthouse, completed in 1886, anchored the downtown square in the limestone Romanesque Revival style, typical of Midwest county seats of the 19th century. Around the courthouse square, the working commerce of the town operated in the standard pattern of mid-century Midwest American small-town life across the early 20th century period. The First National Bank stood on the corner of First and Main. The hardware Hank store on Center Street sold tools, nails, plumbing supplies, and the small machinery that farmers and homeowners needed for routine maintenance. The Made Right restaurant on Main Street served the loose meat sandwich that had been invented in nearby Muscatine in 1926, with a working clientele of farmers, businessmen. The Penny's department store on Center Street sold work clothes, dress clothes, household linens, and the household goods that small-town American life required. The Sears Roebuck catalog store on Main Street served customers who wanted goods they could not find locally. The Rexall drugstore on Center Street served as both pharmacy and lunch counter. The pharmacy compounded prescriptions at the rear counter, while a soda fountain at the front served root beer floats, malted milkshakes, and cherry phosphates to high school students. The Chinese movie theater on Main Street showed first-run Hollywood films 6 nights a week, with the Saturday matinee at 25 cents serving every child in town. The Marshall County Times-Republican printed 3 editions weekly, with the local newspaper covering everything from county supervisor meetings to the annual Harvest Festival and the school football team. The Coca-Cola bottling plant on First Avenue supplied the cafes and restaurants of the entire central Iowa region, with delivery trucks operating 5 days a week. The Lennox manufacturing furnace plant on Main Street employed several hundred workers, producing residential heating equipment shipped to Sears Roebuck and Montgomery Ward catalog customers nationwide. The Iowa State Bank on the corner of Main and Center anchored the town's financial life. And among all of these working shops, scattered across the downtown commercial district, were 7 cobbler shops serving the residential and commercial footwear repair needs of the working town. The Marshalltown Shoe Repair on West Main Street, owned by Frank Petrosky, served the south side of town. The Central Shoe Service on Center Street, owned by the Krieger family, served the downtown business district. The Iowa Shoe Hospital on East Main Street, owned by Albert Yoder, served the east side of town and the rural farming community east of the city. The Marshalltown Boot and Shoe Works on First Avenue, owned by Mike Kalusek. The Quality Shoe Repair on State Street, owned by the Veneta brothers, specialized in dress shoes and ladies' shoes for the professional and white-collar customers of the town. The Bargain Shoe Shop on East State Street, owned by Bohumil Lukes, served the working-class neighborhoods east of downtown. And the Park Avenue Shoe Repair, owned by John Cermak, served the older Czech and Bohemian immigrant neighborhoods on the north side of town. The 7 shops did not compete primarily on price or location. They competed on relationships, on craft, on the specific customers each shop had served for 30 or 40 years. Frank Petrosky knew which of his customers preferred Vibram soles and which preferred leather, with the personal preferences of 300 regular customers carried in his head. Walter Krieger knew which Marshalltown attorney always brought in his Florsheims for wrestling every 18 months, with the rotation timed to the calendar of his rural law practice. Albert Yoder knew which Iowa farmer had brought him the same pair of work boots for resoling every spring across the past 15 years. Mike Kalusek knew the specific stitching pattern that the Iowa State Patrol officers wanted on their uniform boots. The Veneta brothers knew the silk linings and the kid leather details of the dress shoes that the wives of Marshalltown attorneys and doctors had been buying in Des Moines. Bohumil Lukes knew the specific glue formulation that the meatpacking plant workers from the Lennox factory needed for their rubber-soled work shoes. And John Cermak knew the prayer cards that his elderly Czech customers wanted, tucked into the new linings of their resoled shoes. Each cobbler shop had its own smell, with leather and shoe wax and tobacco smoke mingling into a distinct atmosphere that customers remembered for decades after the shop had closed. Each cobbler shop had its own routine, with the doorbell ringing at 6:30 in the morning when the first farmer dropped off work boots. Each cobbler shop had its own conversation, with customers staying for 20 minutes after the work order was written. The cobbler shop was a working node in the social network of small-town American life, with information moving through it as efficiently. The cobbler heard about marriages and deaths, about job changes and crop prices, about the small daily events that constituted the actual texture of community. The cobbler shop was not just a business in 1958 Marshalltown. It was a thread in the working social fabric of the small-town American community. The cobbler knew his customers by name, by family, by occupation, and by the wear patterns of their footwear across years of regular service in his shop. He knew when a teenager had just gotten his first work boots for a summer job on the family farm. The trade was honest, the work was steady, and the income was solidly middle class for any motivated young person who entered the cobbler shop and learned the craft. The 7 cobblers all attended the same local Catholic and Lutheran churches as their customers, and their children attended the same Marshalltown public schools as the children of their customers. The shops closed at 6 in the evening on weeknights and at noon on Saturdays, with the cobblers walking home along Main Street past the same shops every working day. The texture of small-town American life was woven from these working relationships, from the cobbler and the barber and the grocer, all knowing each other and their customers. None of these working relationships could be replaced by a chain store clerk or an online order, no matter how efficient the transaction might be in the modern economy. Frank Petrosky earned approximately $7,000 a year in 1958, against a median American household income of about $5,100 at the same period. Walter Krieger earned slightly more, with the downtown business district producing higher volume and slightly higher margins than the residential neighborhood served by Frank's South Side shop. Albert Yoder earned less because his East Side shop served a lower volume of customers. Mike Kalusek earned more because the specialty work boot business generated premium rates from law enforcement and from the better-paid skilled trades customers across central Iowa. The Veneta brothers earned considerably more because the dress shoe and ladies' shoe specialty business generated premium rates from the wealthier customers of the broader Marshalltown professional class. Bohumil Lukes earned about the same as Frank, with lower margins but higher volume offsetting each other across the working economic structure of the small American small-town cobbler business. And John Cermak earned slightly less than Frank, with the older Czech customer base shrinking as the elderly immigrants of the original Marshalltown community aged out of regular shoe wear. All 7 cobblers owned their shops outright, owned their machinery outright. All 7 cobblers had paid off their houses by their late 30s on a single income. All 7 cobblers had children who could expect to attend college or to enter the trades, depending on the child's preference. The trade was solidly middle class, with steady employment across the recessions and depressions that destroyed other working trades in other industries across the broader American economy of the period. Then came the slow destruction that this channel has documented across so many other American trades. The first wave was the gradual import of cheap finished footwear from Asia, beginning in the late 1960s and accelerating through the 1970s and 80s and 90s. The second wave was the gradual disappearance of the small-town American downtown commercial district itself. By 1975, Marshalltown had lost its first cobbler shop. By 1980, the town had lost a second shop. By 1990, the town had lost 2 more shops. By 2000, only 3 shops remained, with the Marshalltown Boot and Shoe Works, the Central Shoe Service, and the Marshalltown Shoe Repair still operating across the broader downtown. By 2010, only 1 shop remained. By 2015, the Marshalltown Boot and Shoe Works was the only working cobbler shop in town, with a customer base that now extended. The same pattern repeated in every small Iowa town across the same period of decline, with the cobbler shops disappearing one by one from Mason City, from Newton, from Ottumwa. The same pattern repeated in every small American town in every state, with the cobbler shop becoming an extinct fixture of Main Street life. And the texture of Main Street life changed permanently, with the cobbler shop replaced by national chain retail outlets, by parking lots, by empty storefronts. The customer who had walked into Frank Petrosky's shop in 1958 exchanged a few sentences about the weather and his daughter's schoolwork. The relationship that had built across 30 years of regular shop visits was gone, with the customer driving to a national chain shoe store. The cobbler who had known 300 regular customers by name and by footwear pattern was gone. Who benefited from this transformation of small-town American economic life across the second half of the 20th century period of decline of the small-town American working trade economy? The mass-market footwear retailers benefited, with billions of dollars in sales of imported footwear that replaced the durable American footwear of the previous period across the American consumer economy. The major Asian footwear manufacturers benefited, with American consumer demand driving the construction of massive factories in Taiwan, South Korea, China, Vietnam, and Indonesia across the broader trade. The container shipping industry benefited from the new trans-Pacific trade flows that supplied the American market with finished footwear from Asian factories at low landed cost across all consumer categories. The universities benefited as a generation of small-town American teenagers was steered away from family business succession and into 4-year college programs at growing levels of debt. The cobbler was not in the brochure across the American school system, and after 50 years of this pattern. The cost was paid by the small towns themselves, with the texture of Main Street life thinning out one storefront at a time. The cost was paid by every customer who paid premium prices for branded leather shoes that could not be repaired locally. The cost was paid by the 7 Marshalltown cobblers who never trained successors. Now open the archive on what remains, because the Marshalltown Boot and Shoe Works is still operating in 2024, with a working customer base extending across 2 counties. The Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics in May of 2024 reports approximately 15,000 active cobbler and shoe repair professionals operating in the United States. That number is down from more than 200,000 at the trade's 1950 peak, representing a 93% reduction across 2 working generations of American economic transformation. The surviving shops are concentrated in metropolitan areas where premium footwear customers can support specialty repair work, with the small town shops nearly extinct in most counties. The Shoe Service Institute of America reports that approximately 600 new cobblers enter the trade each year, against roughly 1,200 annual retirements across the working economy. The supply pipeline is therefore producing roughly half of the trade's replacement rate, with the working professional population continuing to shrink even as demand begins to stabilize in some markets. The Marshalltown Boot and Shoe Works remains profitable, with annual revenue between $250,000 and $350,000, supporting a comfortable middle-class living. The owner, the son of Mike Kalusek, who had originally founded the operation, is in his late 60s and approaching retirement age. He has been looking for a younger apprentice for more than 10 years. The work is steady, the income is reasonable, and the customer base is loyal. But no young person in Marshalltown has been willing to take on the trade. The same pattern operates in every small town in the country, with the surviving cobbler shops aging out of operation without successors to continue the trade. The work is recession-proof in a way most office work has never been. The Shoe Service Institute of America at ssia.org maintains directories of working shops that take apprentices and offers correspondence training for serious students of the. The entry wage for a new shop apprentice in 2025 sits between $35,000 and $45,000 a year. Within 3 to 5 years, a skilled cobbler in a small town can build a 6-figure income, with the customer base of multiple counties supporting steady annual revenue. The Cobbler Outreach Program, operated by the Shoe Service Institute, offers tuition assistance to motivated young Americans willing to enter the trade and serve a community for years. Several existing cobbler shops across the country offer succession arrangements, with the existing owner training a younger apprentice over 5 to 7 years and transferring the business at retirement. The arrangement gives the apprentice a working business without the upfront cost of starting from scratch, and gives the existing owner a graceful exit with continuing income. The Marshalltown owner has stated publicly that he would consider such an arrangement with the right candidate, and similar opportunities exist in hundreds of small American towns today. The texture of Main Street can be rebuilt by the person standing at the cobbler bench, all in hand. The shop signs are gone from most of Marshalltown. The brass hooks have been thrown away. But the trade is not dead. The trade was never the problem. If this vault opened something for you, leave a comment with the trade you wish your school had taught you instead of college prep. The next vault holds a trade that built a $4 million side business for a single working craftsman. The story begins in Olean, New York, in 1946, and continues to the present day in workshops scattered across the American countryside. The next vault opens soon,